introduce the young lady to you today. We had, where did she go? Oh, there she is. I thought she was going to turn into a pumpkin. She didn't know. When I met, I got in touch with her through Scott. Scott had heard about Amy and said, you know, she sounds like dynamite. We need to have her come and talk to us. So it took a little doing poor thing. It was only at a wedding one weekend, and I'm like sending her like a jillion emails. I think I even called her. I'm just really brazen sometimes. My mother would be ashamed of me. Anyway, we decided we needed to meet before the meeting, so we did. We had a great time. We had bite to eat here in town, and then it took Amy a half hour to find a parking place. Oh no!
Almost.
There would be all that time. Okay. It just
sounds more dramatic.
Oh, it was a parallel parking. It was a parallel parking. That's right. Yeah, well, thank goodness it was you and not me. Okay. And so I invited Greg George met with us, and Scott met with us, and the Mitzes came, and we had a really nice time. We talked about a lot of different things. And I learned, I didn't even know where Amy was from. I guessed she was from the Jackson area, and guess what? I was right. She grew up in Concord, Michigan, she tells us. And apparently generations of her family live in the area. And they love dirt roads. You can ask her about that later. She was homeschooled. She is a graduate of Spring Arbor, where she had a double major in communications and psychology. She has worked for some time for traditional values, Citizens for Traditional Values, which works very closely with Americans for Prosperity and the Right to Life. They endorse candidates. They have a good rapport with those candidates as they get to know them and move on with them. And they work very closely with some churches. And there's a couple of ladies here today, Carrie and Shirley, that I'm sure you would like to talk to. In regard to the churches, yeah. She's going to talk to us about the Millennial Generation and how can we, since we started our group here, every now and again a hand goes up, or two or three, and somebody says, we want to get the younger people involved, younger people. I pick on this poor young brave man who I think was so bored here, and he said, oh my gosh, I guess I'll join swim baths, and he did. And then he met somebody like me, and I'm forever emailing him, and so on, and I dragged him here tonight. That's not true. He's a good man, he's got good information and good ideas, and he follows things very closely. So I'm going to introduce Amy Hawkins to you. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she's all about, and she's going to give us some insights about the younger generation.
Do you want me to try this?
I don't. It depends on you. There you. So far, so good.
No, you're okay. I think as long as I'm this close, save everybody the
Hi, everyone.
interruptions.
It's an honor to be with you guys tonight. And Patty, you're going to keep me posted on the time?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I am really excited to be here with you, and I hope you have your note paper out. I want to just do a few quick announcements quick. If anybody who's not familiar with Citizens for Traditional Values, we're actually holding a campaign school. It looks like December 9th and 10th right now. The Lieutenant Governor's gone to our training, the Speaker of the House. And what I'm looking at doing is more of a specialized track as well. So for those that are interested in running for office, whether it's judge or city council, there will be that portion of it, but then I also want to do a track that specializes on how to run local campaign efforts. So if you have some radical issue that comes up on your local city council, you know how to be strategic and effective on how to win that. This organization's been around for about 25 years. We're monitoring policy, we're training grassroots, we've got your back. We have an email list. If you are interested in joining that, we'd love to have you join us. Another program, I don't know if you've heard of this, Student Statesmanship Institute. Tonight I'm here to talk about the next generation. This is a fantastic way, whether it's grandkids, siblings, kids that might like this. Long story short, I went through the school a long time ago. The president is the president of both organizations. SSI brings in high school students during the week for about 5 to 6 days in Lansing. They go to government camp. the teenagers say, it's high schoolers, teenagers say, oh my gosh, Mom, what are you making me do? They end up coming back for 5 years because they get to come in and play role elected officials. They come in, Representative Hawkins, they're put in a committee, they're given real life legislation that's been dealt with in Lansing, and they get to then debate that bill, they get to go to committee, they get to deal with the mock press, and at the same time they're having worldview discussions with key leadership. Supreme Court justices are coming in and different dignitaries to help them understand what's the difference between creation and evolution, and what does it look like to be a person of destiny and purpose. At the end of the week, they get to actually stand on the state capitol house floor and debate their legislation. The president of the group has worked in this political arena for 25 years, and he says the students that come out of here actually do better speaking than some of our elected officials. Fantastic program if you're interested in that. The final thing is, greatest story never told. I'm horrible with announcements. I'll forget if I leave it to the end. Greatest Story Never Told is a presentation we do that basically is an amazing program to bring in people from the community, especially your Christian community. We can do it in a 45-minute segment, we can do it in an hour and a half, but our president, James Muffett, comes in to basically tell how America was founded, talk about the religious foundation of our country, and use the PowerPoint so it has lots of visuals giving explanations on how Harvard was founded and what the Constitution say, but then also applies it to why we need to be involved today. So I have handed out to a few of you a survey. One of the things that we do as CTV, our slogan is a positive voice for your values, so that if you aren't able to have that relationship with the elected official, the Speaker of the House, you can email me, you can give me your feedback here, so that when the Speaker of the House, the state representative calls and says, what about this issue, I can immediately say, whether I'm texting them, whether I'm emailing them, whether I can say, well, this is definitely an issue that they care about, stay away, don't touch it. So any sort of feedback you can give me is helpful. Okay, I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight, and I hope you have your hats on because I have lots of things I want to cover. Patti and Scott asked me to come in basically with the main goal is to help you understand the Millennial Generation, and then also start to help you figure out how to engage them as a community. A little bit of who I am. Like Patti said, went to Spring Arbor University, was homeschooled, phenomenal experience. What I started noticing at a young age is a couple things. A very passionate zeal that there are absolute truths. There's right and there's wrong, there's black and there's white. I also recognized how leadership, specifically in the church, and citizens weren't engaged. Immediately started this major passion thing of me, and not knowing that I was going to land in government. I've been in government now in the political arena, not actually in the elected offices, but impacting the process for 8 years. I worked on the re-election of President George W. Bush. I had 17 staff underneath me. Our goal was to mobilize the churches and the colleges to turn them out to vote. What I've noticed in 2008, everybody remembers 2008, when President Obama got elected, when an amendment was passed a ballot initiative was passed to make an amendment to our Constitution for the first time ever in Michigan to make it legal to kill a human being, embryonic stem cell research. There were more disappointments from that evening. After I left a congressman's campaign party, he lost, Tim Walberg, who has since come back, but they're friends of mine. I helped them clean up. I drove home at 3 in the morning and sat in my car and wept. I was in my 20s, and I was devastated. The cry of my heart basically became, God, what? Why? How could we have lost the Supreme Court? How could we have someone that is so anti-life, for one thing, that's got elected to the White House? How could we lose this ballot initiative? All of you identify with this passion. That then, within 24 hours, I knew that my time in government wasn't done. Because my response was not, I'm giving up and I'm walking away. My response was, okay, if this is where you have called me to impact, then I need to know how to do it better. If government, and I believe it is, it's scriptural, that's a whole other subject. The government is ordained by God. And if government's ordained by God, then there's a better way to do this. Because what we're doing, these dry ideas, these bland ideas, these ideas that are producing no fruit, they're not working. As I started interacting with this amazing group of community, the Tea Party community, even the political parties that are starting to come back to the table, and as I'm a political dork, I love politics, I'm jealous of Greg, he's reading the news on his laptop, I want to know what's happening. I would go to, partly because of my job, but I would go to the county party, and they would say, how do we get more young adults involved? Amy, where are the young adults? Bring more young adults, bring more young adults. So in the past few months, it's finally clicked with me. I'm like, okay, this Tea Party community, the conservatives, adults, grandparents, want to know, how do we reach our generation, my generation, our generation? There's a handful of young people here. So I was like, all right, let's put it out there. I'm here. People use me. So this is where we're at. Instead of you addressing the young adult population, this is one of my first points, instead of you looking at the young adult population and saying, we need to turn them out, we need to move them as a movement, no, you don't. You need to first understand their culture, our culture. You need to understand who we are, what we're all about, and what we care about. What I want to do a little bit is get some interaction from you. Obviously, a nice small group that we can kind of interact with one another. One of the first questions, I'm looking for feedback from you guys. Two questions. One, I want to know, first of all, let me address like the young adults in the room. And it was cool that the group of us that Matt and Greg was with us at dinner. Being able to talk to other young adults who either do care or don't care is really cool. Because it helps me, but it encourages us and it stimulates our thinking. So for the young adults of you that are here, I'm asking you to take notes in your own mind. What I'm about to say tonight, you can challenge and you can say, you're totally off, or yes, you're on. Have a conversation when you walk away from here with adults. I'm in the learning process myself. Part of the reason I'm glad you're here is because you get to meet some of these people that I've been able to work with for 8 years who desperately care about our generation, but they don't know how to reach us. There was a press release, I did something in Ottawa County, and the press release that went out, and I think it was even on this flyer, but the question was asked, like, why should the millennial generation come to a session like this? Because you need to meet the men and women who care so desperately about changing this generation, this culture around for us, so that we have a future. That's why we need to have everybody in the room, so we can have a conversation. So I'm learning so much. Here are my questions for you. One, what do you want for the other generation? So young adults, pitch in if you want, but specifically the older generation here. What is it that you want from the younger voter? Ideas. My mom would probably say, who's a big Tea Party person, she would probably say, I want people to pay attention to what's happening in the news. To be aware. To be aware of what? Okay.
Understand the process, understand who
Okay.
they're voting for and why they're voting